Good morning, and happy Thursday from the farm. Welcome to Thinking Outside the Soil, where we talk about topics related to the farmers and ranchers using hydroponic practices to grow the crops and creatures we need to eat. I am your host, Sean Short. Today is December 29th, 2022, and thank you for being with me on this beautiful morning. What a great day lies ahead for us all. So today I'm going to touch on some of our four-legged friends that eat hydroponic fodder. If you missed yesterday, I talked briefly about some of the benefits to birds, specifically chickens. But for today, we shall discuss our mammalian makers, cattle, sheep, goats, pigs, and horses. There is a lot to say about all of these creatures, so I shall keep it brief and elaborate on these species in later episodes. So let's begin with my favorite, cows, or rather cattle, also known as boss tourists to some of us nerds. By current estimates, there are about 1.5 billion cattle on this planet, making them the number 2 most raised livestock, behind my dears, the chicken. Cattle are mostly raised for meat, milk, and leather, or some combination thereof. They are one of the oldest, and the numbers show, most widely distributed domesticated mammal raised in all over the world. They're usually kept on pasture or fed things like hay, grain, and other types of supplements. Now, hydroponic fodder offers a lot of benefits to your cattle, and it can overcome some of the major hurdles in what it means to produce field forage. Some of those hurdles include drought, land unavailability, and your labor required for cultivation. Other factors are going to be things like the pasture's growth time, perhaps the fencing you need to keep out other grazers, and the natural climate changes that we're all seeing. Hydroponic fodder offers nutritional advantages for cattle, as well as other ruminants, as it enables the digestive system to process food much better than grain. The natural hormones, amino acids, omega-3s, beta-carotenes, and other beneficial substances increase the enzymatic activity in cows. One advantage that hydroponic fodder can offer is during the finishing stage of production. So, for example, beef cattle are traditionally finished on a corn grain-based diet, a diet that provides a lot of energy the last few days before they go to slaughter, so the animals gain weight as fast as possible. Now, ranchers are reluctant to take their cattle off of corn-based feed because they see a weight loss, which is going to affect their already thin margins. However, corn-based finishing diets ruin a ruminant's gut. The corn will produce a lower pH in the rumen, and that lower pH is going to promote the growth of pathogenic E. coli 0157H7. So as a result, that lower pH, it strips the mucosal lining of the rumen, which allows access for bacteria to enter the bloodstream. That bacteria is filtered by things like the kidneys and the liver. For farmers and during beef harvest, the cattle livers are an integral part of their making money. I heard this time and time again from my father, who's a retired USDA Food Safety Inspection Service veterinarian. So the USDA employs veterinarians within the commercial slaughter industry to evaluate live and sick animals. We are going to hear how companies like Hydrogreen and others are using hydroponic fodder to take the industry by storm, and their science that backs it all up. Yet those conversations are meant for later. There is a lot to talk about with cattle. And here in Colorado, cattle are king and deserve their due. Coming in at number 3 with about 1.2 billion at work is the sheep, Ovis aries. Sheep are raised for meat, milk, and wool. They're highly adaptable animals that thrive in a variety of climates and well suited to all farming systems. They're often kept on pasture, but they also eat hay and grain, and they love it if that's grown hydroponically. Hydroponic barley, clover, and duckweed have been fed to sheep. For instance, New Zealand farmers see an improved coat appearance in their herds. Merino ewes and rams that eat clover sprouts or duckweed have better wool than sheep that just eat forage alone. The fodder supplementation also lets them have a consistent production throughout the year. So those farmers are wool farmers, getting consistent wool throughout the year. Yet they also see that the lactating ewes and male calves that eat hydroponic barley as about a quarter of their diet have healthy body weight gains. Next up would be goats, Capra hircus. About 1.1 billion goats are raised for meat, milk, and fiber, making them the 5th most raised livestock in the world. They are one of the hardiest animals and thrive in every type of environment imaginable. They are also well suited to all kinds of farming systems. I believe you could find a goat on every continent and every climate. They are usually kept on pasture, but they can be fed supplements like hay and grain, and surprise, surprise, hydroponic. Barley, corn, and duckweed have also been fed to goats. So, for instance, studies in Malaysia have shown that hydroponic corn fodder is good for goats compared to the native Napier grass that they eat there, which would be similar to grasses that we grow in the United States or that naturally grow where you may be. Dairy farmers for goats and cattle also see a preference for things like hydroponic barley, especially when hay quality suffers from drought conditions. The hydroponic fodder gives the farmers, and specifically dairy farmers, a lot better control of their feed costs. Next up are pigs, Sus domesticus. Pigs are raised for meat, mostly, and widely distributed throughout the world, with just under 1 billion of them by the most recent estimates. They're a highly adaptable animal and raised in a variety of production systems, including extensive, semi-intensive, intensive, or just pigs. They're usually fed a diet of grain and other supplements. They are prolific eaters and have a high conversion rate. That means you can keep them in smaller spaces and they're easier to manage. Something that is of note that I recently learned is pig production is facing a tremendous amount of setbacks. Like other livestock, they face things from scarcity of water or land and not having enough man or woman power to take care of the animals. Farmers are also struggling due to the unavailability of feed, which accounts for most of the total cost of production in any livestock system. So farmers using hydroponic fodder report lower feed costs. You'd think by now that tongue twister would not escape me. Pigs fed fodder as part of their diet show a faster weight gain. Farmers are seeing a reduced amount of back fat and an increased marbling. So an organic pastured pig farmer was using a modest amount of barley sprouts for about 2 years, and they reported over 50% lower feed costs during that time. They also saw a 10% greater daily weight gain, with about half of that back fat reduced. They, quote, had dark marbled meat, not light pink. Pretty neat. And lastly, our noble steed, the horse, Equus caballus. Horses are used for transportation, recreation, sport, and in some systems used for meat and fiber, like their hair products. They are a very intelligent, agile animal that are suited to a variety of roles, and you can find them in almost every place in the world. They are usually kept on pasture and fed hay and grain and other supplements, especially oats. Colic and gastric ulcers are very common in horses. I mention this because owners that feed hydroponic fodder see a reduced instance of colic, ulcers, and a variety of inflammation. Feeding that fodder alleviates many of these conditions, and the horses can then take full advantage of all of the nutritional benefits that we've heard from briefly in the other animals. For example, it contains those vitamins, minerals, and enzymes that promote a healthy and balanced diet. You know, saying the scientific names of all of these animals reminds me of a story when I was in community college. I had a Lebanese professor with a very thick accent, and he often pronounced words differently than we were used to hearing. One day during class, while we were talking about soil, our professor went on and on about the mycorrhizae and its relationship to the soil and to the plants. Somewhere during his presentation, the student spoke up and corrected him condescendingly by saying, "Isn't it mycorrhiza?" And the professor is just like, "Yeah, that's what I said." And he finished his thought, went on with his presentation. Afterwards, he then addressed the class by saying, "Sometimes scientific words are hard to pronounce, and while they are names, we learn to say them in certain ways. When you learn a word and someone corrects you, politely look at them, repeat what you said, how you said it, and tell them, 'That's what I said,' and keep on with what you were saying." I always appreciated his comments and tact in handling that situation. I've learned that words are very powerful, yet if we can come to some mutual meaning while talking about things, it does make it easier. As always, I would love to hear or read your thoughts, so please feel free to leave a comment or email me at sean@thinkingoutsidethesoil.com. Again, that's SEAN, like Sean Connery. I don't always reply, but I do read every comment or email. And if you want to learn more about how hydroponic fodder helps farmers save water, improve livestock quality, and become better stewards, check out thinkingoutsidethesoil.com. Right now, I'm running a special offer so that you can get a copy of your book. I bought a bunch, and all I ask is that you take care of the shipping and handling. Now, this is a way better deal than you can find online or at any local bookstore, so don't miss out on joining the next agricultural revolution. And thank you for being with me here today on another episode of Thinking Outside the Soil. And have a lovely day. Hey, before you go, check out the links below, leave me a rating and review, and follow the show. Don't forget to get yourself some of our Blooming Health blended sprouting mix. Our mix has been shown to get the best eggs and create the healthiest flocks. With feed costs going up, right now's the time to lock in a subscription so that you can get the best eggs without having to go to the grocery store or the feed store anymore. Check out the links below to get yourself some Blooming Health blended sprouting mix.